when solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded really fast. Like in this last solve of my former world record average, some of the key aspects you need to know are to be good at using audio pairs, solve using the freestyle method, both of which I've made videos of before, link up there somewhere. But the one aspect that I haven't covered yet is how to get good at memorizing letter pair words really quickly. So I'm gonna show you how. So firstly, pick a certain number of letter pair words you wanna go through every day. So say you pick 20, that would mean 378 possible combinations, at least for corners, divided by the 20 words per day would equate to about you learning all of the words in about 2.5 weeks. Okay, so firstly, you're gonna wanna download Anki. So just go to this website and you'll get this popping up, except this abomination of past and current decks that I'm currently using. And then next what you wanna do is go to create deck, probably call it, I don't know, letter pair words, images or something like that. And then click OK. And then what you wanna do is go to add, make sure you change the deck to the one that you just made. So this one. And what you do is chuck a letter pair on the front. So let's say you want to go through the C sets. So maybe your first one is CB perhaps. Just ignore this for now. That's just because I have another deck with the same letter pair. And then just think of the very first thing that comes to mind and chuck it on the back side. For me, it's a cab, so I think of like a taxi cab. So just type like cab, then click add or just enter, and then rinse and repeat. So for example, for CD, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I don't think I'd really need an image for this because I just know what a CD looks like very easily. And then maybe going further down, I don't use CE for corners, but CF, maybe a coffee, or maybe there's a particular type of coffee that I like. So maybe I might just go to Google Images. So maybe, I don't know, coffee, or maybe a Starbucks coffee in particular. I mean, it doesn't really matter so much. Like, I'm pretty sure coffee in itself is fairly distinctive, but if you think of Starbucks coffee in particular, you can chuck that in. So you have something a bit more solid, but it doesn't really matter. Usually I just think of the word and then I visualize whatever image comes associated with it. And you essentially just repeat this over and over again, but you might come across some time a bit later on where you run into some words that are maybe a bit more weird and abstract. So for example, IO, I was talking to someone who I was coaching the other day about this. So the first thing that comes to mind is like Io, which is like the moon of Jupiter. So I just kind of think of a moon, so I just kind of just use Io for that. That sort of sounds weird, maybe not something that might work, but I mean, I don't exactly know what Io looks like, but I generally know what a moon looks like. So I just visualize a moon when I see Io. That works quite fine. So I'll just add that in. For this, there's like no real like words that kind of start with Y and have a D in the middle that comes intuitively to me. But what I did was I kind of thought of the Y as the handle and the D as a sort of like the top of a spade. So I just think of a spade when I see YD. So there are a bit more roundabout ways you can go about doing stuff like this. And perhaps if you use the letter Q, I don't use it myself. Maybe you can make like a CH sound or attach some other kind of rule to it. So maybe you can think of bark from like, I was going to say Pokemon for some reason. I don't know why that came to mind. No, from classical music. And another one you can perhaps use this for XD. You can make the X an SH sound and then chuck in a shield. Or it goes back to the rule I mentioned before. The first thing that comes to mind when I usually see this is just like the XD face. So you can just think of like an emoji with XD on it or something. If you want to be more specific, just type in XD. You might find something like that and you can drag it in. What is that? Anyway, yeah, just rinse and repeat. I use a shield for this though. Then you just go through them. So study now. So CB, I just think cab. I know these pretty well, so it's pretty much instantaneous for me, which is the stage you want to get to. So cab, that's good. So I press space bar. And then again, which would be if it takes longer than a few seconds for you to recall that letter pair, then you press 1 or just click on again here. Don't worry about the other two options. Thinking about those other two options is just going to expend unnecessary time and energy. So good. CD, that's really obvious. CD. So yeah, you ideally want to practice recalling them instantaneously, but definitely no more than a few seconds. Like if it's taking more than a few seconds and it's like constantly like that, you either want to change it so that you better associate the letter pair with the image, or you change the image altogether to be closer to what comes naturally to you when you think of the letter pair. And one other thing that I recommend is to just keep things simple. So as you saw from the previous example, if I press Control Z, which is how you undo, CB, so cab, I just stuck a random vowel in the middle. That's what I do for like most of the stuff. Coffee, I kind of just for like cough, and then I just added an E at the end because it just sort of came to me. And what comes naturally to you might not come naturally to someone else. Like it's more of an intuitive thing, with the exception of weird stuff like, I don't know, IQ. Well, IQ is obvious, but stuff like YD or the weird letter pairs. But for the most part, you want to come up with something that comes intuitively to you. So maybe for CB, you might think of cob, so like a corn or something like that instead. It's not like three style algs where I recommend you should just learn off a list, don't use your intuition. Because, for example, like the best alg for a specific case might be like a second faster than the most intuitive alg you come up for that case. And that applies to everyone, no matter what your background is. You just have to learn the best alg, or one of the best algs anyway. But for CB, like maybe some people might think of a cab, some people might think of a cob, some person that doesn't know English very well might come up with a different word from his native language. So for this, I recommend against the list unless you're running out of ideas for those weird letter pair cases. So there's a bit of a distinction that you need to remember there. But just flying through them, so cabs, CD, coffee, IO the moon, and then spades, Bach, XD or shield. Sometimes I kind of have like two sort of in my mind. I actually have two words for each pair pretty much, but I recommend sticking to like maybe one just to keep things simple for now, but you can chunk some alts, but yeah, I usually use shield for that. And then I might go back to some of the other ones. And once again, if you fail to recall a word, then just press spacebar to show answer, then press 1 to go to again, and keep going through that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What you do is just you rinse and repeat that again, and then you chuck in your new cards, and then yeah, the following days you'll get a bunch of, because these cards I have here, they're like cards I've already gone through like multiple times. I'm just like reviewing them to practice them and keep them at the top of my head. But you'll probably have like a mixture of like this card system that I'm trying to make, new cards and G cards, or like the ones you're reviewing in the mix. But yeah, once again, set a certain amount per day and see how you go. If it ends up being too much, especially as the reviews pile up, then you might be able to cut back a bit. But the point is try to work on a certain amount every day, come up with what comes intuitively to you, and you should be good, and that should take a lot of time off your blind times. Anyway, that's about it. I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, be sure to comment them down below, and I'll be able to help you out hopefully. And as always, if you'd like some help leveling up your blind solving game and you're serious about it, then be sure to book a call with me up here. I hope I'm pointing the right direction, but otherwise have a great day and see ya.